Hi everyone, my name is Mandy and I'm the creator of Me Yoga, and this video is about hugging in your arms for Chaturanga. So we have the flow series in many of our yoga classes, and probably one of the biggest types of yoga right now would be vinyasa yoga. So lots of flows, lots of movement. So it's so important that we have integrity in the body, proper transfer of force, and allowing the muscles that are supposed to be doing the job to do their job, which often, if they're a little bit weak or haven't been used in a while, sometimes other muscles will be like, hey man, don't worry about it, I got this. But in order to create a lot of fluidity and stability and less tension or stress within the body, we have to work the appropriate muscles for the appropriate job. So the common thing that I find in a lot of my students is that they either hug their elbows in too tight, or maybe if they're a little newer or they haven't gotten a bit of instruction on it, they go really wide, right? Like the standard push-up, right? So ideally in Chaturanga, we're looking for a turn in of the elbows. Okay, if this is the ground, if you're the ground, my hand is meeting you. We want that hug in of the elbows, but not so much that it internally rotates the fronts of the shoulders. Okay, we want to have it so that when we're going down towards the ground and the elbows are coming back, that the shoulder blades are gliding onto the back, but also slightly down away from the ears, so that the arm bones, okay, are being followed kind of in a way with the shoulder blades. Same thing when we're like reaching for something, our shoulder blades spread apart on our back, or if we're pulling in. So to show you, if you're reaching, you can see my shoulder blades spread, or if you're pulling, right, arm bones come back, shoulder blades come back. So we want the arms to move with the shoulder blades, and that's simple biomechanics, okay, for the movement. So it's the same thing in our Chaturanga, so you can see it from behind. If I'm in push-up position right now, the shoulder blades are actually a little bit spread. Okay, I would be actively pushing my hands into the mat, and then as I come down in Chaturanga, and the elbows come back, you can see the shoulder blades come back. The elbows are in, but a little bit away from the waistline. And the heads and shoulders are nice and stable. Okay? It's the same thing when you do your push-up, again, to upward dog. Shoulder blades come into the back. So this is from the back view. Okay? And then we're going back to downward dog, just to show you the extension. Okay? Essentially, it looks something like this. Okay, but I'll show you the before and after. So here's the before. Okay, the students kind of doing it a little incorrectly, and it's more like, it's not for incorrectly because your body can't do it. This is just biomechanics, and this is how your body functions well together, transferring force. So as the inhale forward to plank, the common thing that is seen is that the elbows go really wide, and then you can't stabilize, so you flop down. Okay, and then you do your baby cobra if you're in a baby cobra, and then often these same people that are widening their elbows, right, in baby cobra, they'll only pull them in a little bit, and then they'll re-spread the elbows wide to try and press up, okay, which is so much force on the shoulder girdle, and not in a good way. Okay, so what you're looking for, and you can always do this at home and with a mirror, with a friend, just if you've got a good eye, a friend with a good eye. And when you come forward, the elbows hug in so that the eye of the elbow faces forward. I'll show you that in a minute if you don't know what I mean. Okay, just for all purposes, we'll put the knees down today. The elbows bend back, core is in, and then you bring yourself gently to the floor. Okay, you do your baby cobra, elbows back. As the nose drops, with the toes, press the hands back through tabletop to downward dog. Okay. Now, on the flip side of people pulling in too tightly with their elbows, and I have come across, a few students that do this, and usually the ones that do this are long-term practitioners. So people who have been doing it for a long time, have come to many classes, not to stereotype, but they're usually A-type personalities, atypical personalities. And when I tell them, you need to widen the elbows a bit, through all the years, they've been told, squeeze in, squeeze in, squeeze in. They're kind of like, no. I've been doing this way for a while, I'm just going to stay with it, And you know, as a teacher, you gotta respect someone's practice. You're like, all right, you know, I can't tell them not to do it. I can only make suggestions to you as an educated teacher, okay? And I'm gonna tell you why. And sometimes, you know, in the moment in a class, when you tell someone, hey, try it this way, it's a little bit better biomechanically, they're like, I'm just gonna do it this way, right? Because the full explanation isn't able to be provided in that small little moment. So here's the explanation, okay? Hugging in the elbows, yes, you hear this instruction constantly, you know, especially if you're in a class with a lot of newcomers, you'll hear like elbows in. It's like little chicken wings. So the reason why we work this way is so that when the elbows are in, right, properly, not tightly squeezing in, you get the engagement of your rotator cuff, okay? And it is the supraspinatus, okay, which is the top one here, and the infraspinatus on the back of the shoulder blade, okay, which is right here. If you put your finger there with your muscle, let me just move my posture up. You can actually see it engage a little bit for me here. I've been working a lot on my vinyasas, so it's gotten pretty flexed there. So that would be your infraspinatus. And up here, just above that little bony ridge, would be your supraspinatus. And those are your external rotators. Okay. So those guys, you know, they're not huge muscles. Those are your stabilizers. So when you chaturanga, right, those are the ones that are keeping the arm bone pulling back rather than allowing it to dip in. And the dipping in, we'll get to that in a second. So as you do your chaturanga, okay, and you're getting the proper engagement of that rotator cuff, then you can stay here without dipping the shoulders, navel in, okay, with a lot of integrity. Now what happens is if you squeeze in too tightly, I'll show you the difference. And I used to do this, so I'm speaking from, you know, osteopath and chiro and massage, being like, what are you doing to your back? You're doing something. And it was me hugging my shoulders or my elbows in too tightly, okay? So if you hug in too tightly, I want to see if you guys can see the difference already. I was like squeezing in so tight, I can't even do it now, that the shoulders, I can barely keep the shoulders where they should be. Yeah. And that's where sometimes you get the flopping down, but if you've done it for a while and you're really good at it, like I was, it'll feel normal. It'll feel like, oh, this is nothing. So just to conclude, okay, when you come forward, keep a little space between your elbows. Okay, so I'll just give you a little show from the front. Okay. So instead of being essentially looking like this, where you're curling in, you're bending elbows back, you're keeping a little space here. Okay, so it's like that. So just that little bit of space. Make a huge difference. Okay. Now when it comes to the eye of the elbow, because I just want to touch base on this before I finish this video, if you can do this in tabletop, then you can probably do it in your chaturangas, okay? Is that often we start here, where we actually have, you know, sometimes not as much neutral shoulder, but sometimes more internal rotated, okay? Is that when you're coming forward in your plank, you're turning the eye of the elbow forward. Can you see that? So in, out. Internal rotation, external rotation. Internal, external. And you can see that in the flow, because you start a little bit more on the internal. Like for me, I've gotten used to turning my elbows out now, so it's not as hard. But when you do go through coming down and you're about to chaturanga, eye of the elbow forward, shoulders back, lower ribs in, and then you can come down with stability. Okay? So just a little recap. Not super wide, not super tight, just a little bit away from your body. Okay? The other little tidbit that I almost forgot to mention, not to jump around, is that the other reason for not squeezing elbows in is if you squeeze in so tightly that often your lats, your latissimus dorsi on your back, which connect up to the inner arm bone, it's a helper for internal rotation, will engage. And if you think about it, this lat muscle is a huge triangle from like right across, just on the tips of the shoulder blades, across the back, all the way down to your tailbone. It is a massive muscle. So think about that muscle versus just two little tiny muscles here. Which one do you think is going to win? Probably the lats. So what happens is if you squeeze in too tightly, the lats start to rotate you in, pulls the head of the shoulder forward, causes compression on the bicep tendon, which goes across here, by pushing the head of your arm bone in and up onto that tendon when you're coming down to your chaturanga. So what happens is this curl in, press forward, and you get that irritation. You could even get a little compression in the bursa in between the tendons and the bones, muscles, and the tendons. Okay, and that causes a lot of pain. So do your best to just work with, you know, kind of like Goldilocks, you know, not too wide, not too tight, right in the middle. So it's more of a gliding process rather than a dipping process, or a, you know, right to your tummy if you're really wide. Okay. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions at all, please just, you know, leave a little note at the bottom in the comment section. I'll get to it. If there's something else that you're curious about in your own practice that you're like, you know, I never seem to really get an answer for this, please put it down and I'll see if I can speak to it. Okay. Thanks so much again for watching. I'm Mandy, and I hope to see you again. Take care.